Okay, let's dive in. Today's date is March 29th, 2026. And exactly 1 month ago, a conflict erupted that has completely reshaped not just the Middle East, but our entire understanding of modern warfare. In this explainer, we're going to break down the fictional 2026 Iran war, where it came from, the incredible technology being used, and its devastating global impact. So, it all started on February 28th, 2026. The world was pretty much stunned when a massive, coordinated military operation was launched against Iran by the United States and Israel. And make no mistake, this wasn't just a skirmish. This was the opening shot of a full-scale, high-intensity war.
That first day unfolded with just breathtaking speed. The order was given on Air Force One. Less than 12 hours later, strikes were hitting Iran right during the morning rush hour. A total tactical surprise. Iran's retaliation was almost immediate. And by the very next day, the world learned that Iran's supreme leader had been killed. It's a really stark look at the sheer velocity of modern conflict.
And the scale of this first punch? It was just staggering. We're not talking about a limited strike here. This was a massive, overwhelming attack designed for maximum impact right from the get-go. Over 200 fighter jets in a single mission. That number alone tells you everything you need to know about the level of preparation and intent.
As soon as those first missiles hit, a whole different kind of war began. A war of narratives. The US and Israel called their attack Operation Epic Fury, a name that screams overwhelming force. Iran fired back with Operation True Promise 4, which kind of frames this as just the next chapter in a long, ongoing struggle. These names show that both sides were ready, not just to fight, but to define what this conflict meant on their own terms.
So, the big question is, how did we get to this point? A war of this size doesn't just happen overnight. You're looking at decades of tension that finally just boiled over.
The roots of this thing go all the way back to 1979. More recently, though, the U.S. pulling out of the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal, back in 2018, really cranked up the economic pressure. By early 2026, Iran was dealing with huge protests at home. And then, in just a tragic twist of history, literally one day before the attack, diplomats thought they were on the verge of a breakthrough.
This quote from Oman's foreign minister, wow, it just captures the shock perfectly. The international community thought they were taking a step back from the brink, but instead, they fell right over the edge. It's that jarring contrast between the hope for peace and the sudden reality of war that's so crucial here. Now, this conflict has also become a proving ground for a whole new generation of military tech. This isn't just about jets and missiles anymore. It's about speed, it's about data, and it's about autonomy.
A key player on this new battlefield is something called the Lucas drone. Think of it as a smart, disposable weapon. It's a kamikaze drone, sure, but its real advantage is economic. It lets you overwhelm an enemy with swarms of these things without the absolutely astronomical cost of traditional cruise missiles.
And this is where it starts to feel like something out of science fiction. The head of U.S. Central Command, Admiral Brad Cooper, actually credits AI with planning and carrying out attacks at, and I'm quoting here, the speed of thought. What that means is the time between finding a target and hitting it has been shrunk to almost nothing. That fundamentally changes how you fight a war.
So how does all this tech work together? Well, it's basically a three-pronged attack. First, AI plans hundreds of strikes with incredible speed. Second, swarms of these Lucas drones go out and execute those strikes. And third, at the exact same time, cyber attacks are launched to blind and confuse the enemy, cutting off their ability to talk to each other and respond effectively. It's a truly integrated, multi-front operation.
But Iran's response was anything but primitive. In the first week alone, they launched a massive barrage. We're talking over 2,000 drones and 500 missiles. And they weren't just aiming at Israel. Iran immediately widened the conflict by hitting U.S. bases all across the Gulf region, showing that they have their own serious long-range capabilities.
A war of this scale, in such a critical part of the world, was bound to have consequences far beyond the battlefield. Let's take a look at the staggering economic fallout.
Just 3 weeks into the fighting, the estimated cost for the U.S. military alone was $18 billion. And that's just the direct military spending. The true economic cost is much, much higher. And this is where everyone around the world feels it. Global oil prices shot up by 40% in less than a month. This chart just shows how dramatic that spike was, sending shockwaves through every industry and hitting all of us right at the gas pump.
And the reason is simple geography. The conflict has basically shut down the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most critical shipping lanes for energy.
But it's not just oil. It has also crippled the export of key ingredients for fertilizer, which now threatens global food supplies.
Beyond all the economic numbers, though, is the truly devastating human cost. This isn't a conflict that's just contained to one or two countries. This table shows casualties across at least 7 nations. The numbers in Iran and Lebanon are just catastrophic, but the losses are being felt across the entire region, a tragic reminder of how quickly modern wars can spread.
So 1 month in, there are absolutely no signs of de-escalation. The conflict just continues to evolve, with new fronts opening up and the humanitarian crisis getting deeper every single day.
To really understand the human impact, just look at Lebanon. The fighting has spilled over with such intensity that over 1 million people have been forced from their homes. That's 1/6 of the entire country's population. It is a humanitarian catastrophe on an almost unimaginable scale. And the war is still expanding. The US and Israel have now struck over 11,000 targets inside Iran. And just this past week, Houthi forces in Yemen officially entered the conflict, launching their own missile attacks against Israel. So far from winding down, this war is actively pulling in more and more players. So we end up right back where we began, with the nature of this new kind of war. This conflict has shown us the power of AI-driven planning and autonomous weapons. So the question we're all left with is this: as warfare accelerates to the speed of thought, are we watching the new blueprint for all future conflicts being written right before our eyes? It's a question that has implications for every single one of us.